Said it before, I'll say it again. If you're a drawing and you want to have your drawings look cooler than they already do lighting, man. Do invest time on learning how to do lighting. It does so much to bring so much more drama to your piece. Things just look so much more dramatic and like powerful when you have like some dope lighting going on. And it doesn't take much to do, you know. In the beginning, like everything kind of looks weird too, right? Like everything doesn't necessarily make sense when you start applying shadows. But as long as you have a consistent direction of light, it'll come together sooner than you think. So right now my lighting is more or less coming from the top, and I am shading it accordingly, you know. So we're making the things darker that are being covered by something above them, so like the inner side over here. And we're gonna go darker than this, but this shade of gray, it's good to start setting it up, and it gives you a general idea as to where your light is coming from. And then from here you can make it more dramatic the further you go, you know. We make it darker, and I always start with shadows before I go with highlights. Highlights is the last part of it, because highlight, less is more, you know. You don't want to overdo highlight. You only put as much as you need, so that's why I stick to shadows first. And then once that's done, then you can move on to the next step. But there you go. See, now we can go a bit darker, and I'm gonna jump around back and forth from the dark to light, and then having like midtones in between whatever I pick, because of how my opacity set up for my brush is set up at like a 20-30%. So that means that it's gonna take 4 or 5 strokes before you get 100% opacity. So if you go like this, 1 and 2, 3, 4, there you go. So the percentage of opacity on your brush is how long it takes to get to that full 100%. Darker still, but this is how I like to like shade though. Like going straight to the darkest is always a bad idea in my opinion, because you don't give yourself room to grow or to like move around in the light spectrum. So it's always good to build up to the darkest rather than jumping right onto it, because that way you have room for you have wiggle room, you know. And the shadows are just kind of used for like accentuating the crevices in between these like grooves, you know. And the darker it is, the further back it gets pushed. So, or well, further back, or to denote something that's completely being covered by something. So like whatever's underneath, or further back. So this is the armpit area. Obviously there's going to be very little light touching it, so you can go pretty dark. And it all depends on your slide setting, because sometimes you can have bounce light from the environment, and then that makes it so that you might have a little bit of a rim light underneath here. But since I don't have any rim light, my environment is not going to be that way. I don't have to worry about it. And the parts that are furthest from the light are always going to be the darkest. And that must be like no shit Sherlock, but that's something that I have to internalize. All right, now let's go back up the value. But for the tree, you don't have to be too exact. For the tree, just kind of looking for a general direction of the shadow. I rather clean up the edges rather than trying to avoid coloring outside the edges, so I can be a bit more expressive with the way that I make the shadows. We did it.